Hi, this is Little Dwarf playing games while rambling incoherently into a microphone. Why? Well, just because I can, and I continue with Arcanum of Steamworks and Magick Obscura, Blind. Now, I'm here in the entrance to what is called the Place of Voices, the Place of Lost Voices. I found this map in the ancient iron chest in the museum in Tarant, and I opened it with this here iron key, the schematic of which I got from a scholar in the Wheel Clan. So maybe this will help me discover, the lost histories of the Iron Clan. Let's go inside. Okay, nobody inside so far. This ancient iron device before you has a number of empty slots on its face. It seems to require additional machinery in order to operate, and it's connected to some kind of an orb. There are also manholes here, but it seems I cannot click on them. So, it just so happens that in the same iron chest in the Tarant Museum, I also found those 3 iron drums. This one has a faded symbol, this one has a key, and this one has a book. So, presumably I need to use them in some order. Let's try this one. Okay, nothing has happened. This one. Okay, so it summoned a bunch of iron arachnids who went out of the manholes here, but it seems I still cannot enter them, because presumably they were designed specifically to house the arachnids, and I am too large to enter those tunnels. The arachnids have nothing on them, as far as loot is concerned, so let's try the last drum with the symbol of a book. Find the book, it said. You hear a voice, but it's very faint. Okay, so one of the slots has lighted here, so I guess it has to be done in a correct order. So let's try again. Find the book of Durin's truth. Let's try this one, because the previous 2 have disappeared, which seems to indicate that they were inserted correctly.
Listen well to the words passed down from the Iron One. Find the book of Durin's truth, for within its pages lies the key that you seek.
Okay, so I've used everything, and it recorded, it played a recorded message that says I need to find the book of Durin's truth, and it just so happens that I already know where it is. It's in Caladon. It's owned by the wife, well, the widow of the late Victor Misk, and last time I was there, she wouldn't sell it to me, but maybe now that I have concrete ideas of what to do with it, maybe I can persuade her to do so. I need to go to Caladon anyway, because that's where my main quest is taking me, the quest to find the resting place of Nasrudin, because the Silver Lady of the Elves has told me that my answers lie with Nasrudin, and it just so happens, it's actually kind of hilarious, because it just so happens that I've discovered the grave of Nasrudin by accident the last time I was in Caladon. So let's go to Caladon then. What else do I have to do? Pretty much nothing at this point. Just, well, I guess Virgil went to Caladon as well on some personal business. He left my party a few hours ago, so maybe I can find him as well and persuade him to maybe tell me what is his problem, so that I might help him with it, and then he might rejoin my party? Because I rather enjoyed him, to be honest, his voice acting and his general persona, because he seems very lost. He's clearly he has had a rough upbringing. He's a street kid at heart. He's a street kid at heart. What with being excited about partaking in an orgy during a festival of Gestiana, but also he seems to genuinely want to be a better person than he was when he was younger. So he enlisted in this Panarii religion, even though he seems to know very little about it, and it's quite hilarious because he pledged his life to me as the reincarnation of the living one, but at the beginning, he didn't even remember the name of either me, that being Nasrudin, or my greatest nemesis, that being Aronax. He just said, "Oh, you're the reincarnation of the guy, and you're meant to fight the other guy, the evil one." So that was rather fun, and I hope I will be able to. I will be able to have him in my party again. Okay, let's continue onward to Caledon. Oh, it seems my last waypoint has disappeared, so let's put it again here. Okay, I will wait for the morning, and first I will go to talk with the widow of Victor Misk to try and persuade her to give me or sell me the Book of Durin's Truth, and then I will go into the sewers, because there's actually a secret entrance to the Tomb of Nasrudin that leads through the sewers, and obviously I need to find Nasrudin's remains. Well met, I remember you. Hello, may I have a moment? Certainly. I'd like to talk to you about the Book of Durin's Truth. The Book of Durin's Truth? What it is that you want to talk about? I'm in need of that book. Is there any way I might procure it? Why on earth would you have a need for that very book? You see, I'm searching for the Iron Clan. Tell her the story. An interesting quest, my friend. Perhaps I might be interested in selling it to you. Are you interested in buying it? Of course. What's the price you've been thinking about? Why don't we set the price at 2,000 gold pieces? More than a fair price, considering its value. I might try haggling a little, but to be honest, I have zero skill in haggle. Sure, done. Give her the money. Thank you. Here is the key for the display case. The book is at your leisure. Okay, I will be departing now. The Book of Durin's Truth. So let's read it. The Iron Clan, and it gives me the location. The Book of Durin's Truth. Search you for the truths of Durin. Do you seek the stone and shape? Then walk the path and know the path, and follow in it. He follows in its wake. Have you found the place of voices? Yes, I have. Have you heard the message clear? I think you have. I know you have. For else you would not be here. The road from here is not much longer. You've traveled far to see this light. Your heart keeps strong, your courage long. The morning will be bright. Now travel to the vault of iron and bring with you the key of glass. The door swings wide, and there inside you will find the truth at last. Okay, but I do not have the key of glass, because... and wait, where do I even find it? Because this is the iron key, and I used it already to open the iron chest at the museum in Tarant. So I'm at a bit of a loss. Maybe the scholar in the Wheel Clan can tell me something about the key of glass. once I tell him that I found the Book of Durin's Truth. But because, incidentally, I forgot about it, I need to return to the Wheel Clan to return this toy train to one of the dwarves, because apparently it's a priceless, you know, family heirloom for him, which is both kind of hilarious and potentially kind of sad, because I imagine it might have belonged to either one of his children who has died young, or to him when he was a kid, and maybe it's like a toy that each one of them played when they were children. Like maybe it's deeply connected to this guy's childhood, and that's why he's so fixated on it. Let's go to the sewers, and basically I need to go, I do believe here, because there is a passage here, right? Yes, there is, but it might be the wrong one. Yep, it is the wrong one, because I need to get past this door, and to do it, I need to enter through the other passage, because I don't have the key to the door in the castle or whatever, to the catacombs. But fortunately, it can be circumvented if you just travel through the other passage in the sewers. And now I can go upstairs, and here is the Tomb of Nasrudin. There is a skeleton within the sarcophagus, dressed in ragged robes. The skeleton is missing its right finger. So let's enter this. The skull from the Tomb of Nasrudin. But what do I do with it? Like, it said here in my quest log that I need to find the remnants of Nasrudin. Find Nasrudin. Yeah, I did. So what now? Like, I literally took his skull out of his... Can I use it? Nope. The skull from the Tomb of Nasrudin is very, very old. Okay, but what with it? Like, nothing has happened. My quest log is not even updated. And this exit to the Panarii Temple, but I cannot exit through here. What business do we have here? I'd like to see the Tomb of Nasrudin. I'm sorry, but you don't wear the pilgrim's robes, and I don't appreciate being lied to, stranger. I recommend that you be on your way. Good day to you. Yeah, but I'm literally already in the Tomb of Nasrudin, and my quest log is not updated. So it's either a bug or I like missed. Oh, sarcophagus lid. It has a symbol on it and some writing, but I don't understand what that means. And to be honest, this has not updated my quest log either. So It doesn't look like you can interact with anything here. Okay, this is kind of annoying, because I feel like I probably must go back to the Panarii Temple and talk with them first, and presumably then maybe return here. Because they said, you know, one of the acolytes before said that the chief acolyte, the first acolyte, was away on business the last time I was in Caledon. So maybe now, after some time has passed, maybe he has returned, and I will be able to talk with him about Nasrudin, and maybe this is the step that the game requires me to take before I am able to interact with his tomb, because which to be honest is kind of nonsensical to me. Like, I really think the game should allow me to proceed by going straight into the tomb if it allowed me to go there in the first place, because it would be very easy to wire it in such a way that it would be impossible to reach the Tomb of Nasrudin without talking to the priests first. But clearly the game had no intention of actually doing it this way, so if it allows me to go there, why am I not allowed to proceed? It's a little annoying because I have to run around like a headless chicken, but oh well. To be honest, I wanted to go to the temple because, first of all, maybe Virgil is here. I mean, there. After all, he is of the Panarii as well, so maybe if he was in need of guidance or in need of help, maybe he would have turned to them. Okay, this is at the docks. But also, I'm interested to see if the First Acolyte has returned, and if so, what can he tell me? So I guess let's go to the Panarii Temple then. Oh, it is you! You finally come! The blimp crash survivor. I saw your picture in the Tarantian. I am Alexander, the First Acolyte of the Temple. It is a great pleasure to meet you. What? What are you talking about? Do you have any idea what it means? It is you. You are the living one. It's a miracle. Let's not blow this out of proportion. Out of proportion? This is an astronomical event. The return of Nasrudin, the final battle, the end of all we know and the new beginning. The most amazing... Fine, I am the living one. Do as I say and shut out. Of course, he composes himself, just briefly. I mean, just barely. Forgive my excitement, exalted one. We have waited for you for such a long time. Let's keep this between us. Of course, but you must listen to me. We were warned by the High Priest to expect your arrival, and he told us to scorn you as an impostor. For some reason, he refuses to believe. I can understand his position. This whole thing is a bit odd. Alexander laughs. There are times when we all find it too difficult to follow the path chosen for us. In the end, does it really matter if you were or you weren't? You seem intent on discovering what has happened, and already you and Aronnax have crossed paths. If you thwart his plan, you will have played the role of the living one. Is there any difference in the end? Yeah, I suppose not. It's actually a quite common trope in prophecies where, in prophecies in fiction, where they are actually bullshit. They have no actual power, but because the characters believe in them, they do certain things, and they end up coming through nonetheless, as through a cycle of a self-fulfilling prophecy, which is basically what is happening here, right? Because I am trying to uncover all of those events, and I am trying to stop Aronnax. So in the end, this guy is right. It doesn't matter if I really am the reincarnation of the Living One, because I am playing the part of the Living One, and trying to stop evil nonetheless. So the whole prophecy is kind of irrelevant, at least for me, because obviously it is kind of important for the Panarii, because they do believe that I am some kind of a messiah. I am a reincarnation of the famed Nasrudin, but in practice it does not seem to have greater meaning. I guess it would if I decided to betray them, and if I joined in with the Dark Elves, because then obviously the quote-unquote prophecy wouldn't come true, as it were, because I would have chosen a different path, which just the possibility of me doing that kind of proves that the prophecy is bullshit, right? Because if fate was decided, if I had no if it was already decided that I am the living one and I'm supposed to save the world from evil, then I wouldn't even have the choice to defy it, right? Because that's how fate works, basically. If you have a choice, then there cannot be fate. I suppose not. I just wish people would stop trying to kill me. I am not worried. You have come this far. Regardless of what you think, I feel the fate has chosen a worthy champion. Now, how may I be of further service? What can I expect from people around here? You should be very careful who you reveal yourself to. If you speak with Hadrian the archaeologist, you may not want to tell him. He's a great man of faith, but he is old. Believe in you will come slowly. Gunther Wilhelm is a brilliant man and open to new ideas. I believe he will accept you immediately. Thank you, I will remember that. A few more questions? Of course, Honored One. I live to serve. What can you tell me about the Panarii Church? What would you like to know? What do the Panarii believe in? The Panarii and their beliefs are centered around the life and teachings of Nasrudin. Throughout his life, in the years since his passing, there has been much written about him by those who knew him, as well as by learned men who have studied his life. What can you tell me about Nasrudin? What would you like to know about him? Who was he? Nasrudin was a powerful and wise elf who lived during the Elf Age of Legends. As the leader of the Elven Council, Nasrudin was both the physical and spiritual leader of all of the lands of Arcanum. For 1,000 years he ruled over the council, and the land prospered, and all was well. What happened? The coming of Aronax heralded the end of an age for Arcanum, from the disbanding of the Elven Council to the death of our beloved Nasrudin. How did Nasrudin die? Nasrudin died after he and the council banished Aronax at the Ring of Brodgar. Nasrudin was wounded mortally in the battle which preceded the banishment and died not long after. Where did he die? According to the Archeon, Nasrudin traveled to the southernmost tip of the land, and there he laid himself to rest. That's why we are here. This temple is built over his remains. Oh really? And where I may find these remains? The remains of Nasrudin are just below us in the lower catacombs. There is a stairway through the doors behind me. It leads to the burial chamber and the sarcophagus in which he is encased. Unfortunately, only church elders and pilgrims are allowed to see the remains. It's kind of nonsensical, like if he does believe that I am a reincarnation of Nasrudin and I am the famed living one, shouldn't he allow me to see what is basically my previous incarnation's remains? I have more questions about Nasrudin. What are the teachings of Nasrudin? What would you like to know about them? Are there scriptures that you study? There are many important writings we study, but the most important book in the Panarii Religion is the Archeon. It's a collection of what is considered to be the most representative teachings of Nasrudin, as well as some prophecies that were made in the early years following his death. Where may I see the copy of the Archeon? The Archeon is just over there, the largest book on the pedestal. Feel free to peruse its pages and gain what wisdom there is to be found. If you'd like to discuss things you find confusing or unclear, I'd be happy to oblige you. Okay, more questions about Nasrudin? About his teachings? What is the essence of Nasrudin's teachings? Nasrudin was an ardent believer in elven philosophy. Elves feel that everyone and everything has a rightful place in the world, that this reality is formed through the combined experience of all forms of life. Good and evil rarely play a part in how elves view the world. What might be considered evil? Evil, in the most basic terms, might be described as something which disallows the progression of the natural order. I suppose it's a grey area, but you might say evil is something diametrically opposed to elven philosophy. What? To which I might say, even those things have their place. Ah, right, because so I am trying to argue that it's impossible to define evil within the framework of the elven philosophy, because if they believe that everything has the rightful place in the world, then so do the people who oppose them. Alexander smiled. It is said that single elven philosophical debates have spanned literal decades. You can see why. Elven and dwarven philosophy are very different. Oh, you know of dwarven philosophy? I've discussed at length the stone and shape. He gives you an apprising look, obviously impressed. Not many outlanders can speak of those things. Tell me, my friend, what do you see as the major difference between the two? I don't think it's a matter of magic and technology. In fact, I feel it plays very little role in the actual discussion about morality. And I don't really think elves live outside of themselves, because they have a very great sense of community. In fact, they seem to live in some form of a commune, in fact, because in Kintara they said that marriage is something that's a human custom, and that elves don't really practice marriage because they feel like loving someone in particular more than the community overall is wrong, and that you shouldn't seclude yourself from the greater community by choosing a single romantic partner. And in fact, they seem to think that marriage is a sign of like cultural anarchy, that it's somehow wrong to do it. So I guess out of those, I don't like any of those answers, but I would say solidity versus immateriality, because the dwarven philosophy in this game, it's very concrete. It has a very sharp lines of what is allowed and what is not, and the stone, as it were, the cultural tenets, the basic cultural foundations of what it means to be a dwarf are not negotiable. So it is very clear to a dwarf, what is right and what is wrong. And it seems by contrast that the teachings of Nasrudin and the teachings of the elves are very nebulous, and it's pretty much, as was demonstrated by this very conversation, it's pretty much impossible to describe evil through the framework of the elven philosophy, because they believe that everyone has a place. So, by definition, everyone includes people who disagree with them, and in fact, that's the case with the Dark Elves, right? Because most of the elves of Kintara believe that the Dark Elves have a place, have a right to disagree with them, and have a right to be opposed to them, because they too, their opposition is part of the world, is part of a greater whole that is the sum of the experience of all of the people in Arcanum. So you couldn't forbid them to disagree, you couldn't force them to agree with you, because that would run contrary to the elven belief that everyone has a place, right? So out of those, I would say solidity versus immateriality. An interesting point of view, but in my opinion, a rather shallow one. Perhaps you should come with us and study for a time. Okay, I don't find your response offensive. I find your response meaningless. Like, sure, that's like your opinion, man. I'm sorry you think so. General questions about Nasrudin? I asked everything about this, so about the Panarii? I have questions about Aronax. What would you like to know about Aronax? Who was he? Aronax was an elf of the original Elven Council during the Age of Legends. According to the histories, Aronax was a very evil elf. He had held personal interests in gaining control of the council and using it for his own dark ends. Aronax thought that not only should elves rule, but they should subjugate all of the other races. Nasrudin came to our defense. Where is he now? Aronax was banished by Nasrudin and the council after a large battle near the Ring of Brodgar. Aronax had waged war against the council. It is speculated that he tried to wrest control from the council from Nasrudin for his own purposes. Nasrudin died from the wounds received in that battle. You said he was banished. What does that mean? When someone is banished, they are sent to what is known as the Void. And the Void, what is it? Well, it is an area of some debate. Many say that the Void is an actual place, a plane of existence where the evil pay for their transgressions for all eternity. Others say that the Void is merely a state of unbeing, not a physical place. What is known that when someone is banished into the Void, they are no longer here and they cannot come back. How is that different from death? Death, as proven through magic, is sometimes a temporary state. Entities can be resurrected. There is no resurrection from the void. Punishment was a permanent solution, a punishment of the highest degree. It's never done anymore. There are those who believe the knowledge of how to do it has been lost forever. Okay, more questions about Aronnax? Has anyone else ever been banished? Yes, there are others who have been banished over centuries. The Archeon actually names 4 of them specifically: Gorgoth, the Bane of Kree, Kergan and Krakatur. Of course there were others, but these were the most infamous. Okay, I actually read about Krakatur already, but I'm going to ask about all of them obviously. Tell me about the Bane of Kree. The Bane of Kree was a nomad warrior who was able to gather together nearly all of the ancient nomadic tribes and create a vicious army out of them. When his army descended on the city of Kree, he mercilessly killed every man, woman and child that lived there. Nasrudin was forced to confront him and banish him single-handedly. Tell me of Kergan. Kergan was the very first mage to delve into the darkest side of necromancy. The Elven Council, when they found out what he was doing, demanded that he ceases his studies. He refused, and they banished him. Oh, I actually found his laboratory and I read his journal in which he described his first foray into the field of the dark necromancy, and he described how he learned to conjure spirits and to create undead. Tell me of Krakatur. Krakatur was a conniving, twisted monster, half man and half dragon, who terrorized cities and villages, killing their inhabitants and burning them to the ground. With the strength of a dragon, by the dark heart of the basest man, he was evil beyond comparison. After a colossal battle, he was subdued and banished. In the struggle, he lost an eye, which is on display in the offices of archaeology, if you're interested. Okay, interesting. Tell me about Gorgoth. Gorgoth was a mindless beast with an insatiable appetite. He cut a swath of destruction from one end of Arcanum to the other, laying waste to everything in a desperate hunt for food. He was finally captured by the council after a struggle which lasted for days, and with no other alternative, it was decided that he be banished from Arcanum. Okay, more questions? General questions about Panarii. Okay, I do believe I asked everything. Oh, wait, I didn't ask those questions. There's a statue in the courtyard. What can you tell me of it? That is the statue of Saint Manox, one of the early founders of the church. Of what importance is Saint Manox? Saint Manox was a very, very holy man. There are many miracles attributed to him, and most of them are well documented. There's a talisman associated with him in the offices of archaeology, if you're interested in that sort of thing. Wait, what do you mean by his ascension? Legends tell that Saint Manox was visited by the spirit of Nasrudin himself, and that Nasrudin found him so holy that he took his body directly from this plane of existence to the next. This has only happened once in all of our history, and so we remember him. Alexander gets a strange, far-off look in his eyes, pride and a little sadness. Did anyone actually see it happen? There are signed confessions from 2 high-ranking church elves at the time. They both describe the ascension of Saint Manox in beautiful detail. You can speak with Gunther Wilhelm further about this if you'd like. He's the church's historian and the most learned of us in the teachings and prophecies of Archeon. I might do that. Okay, more questions about here. How was the church started? The church started right after the death of Nasrudin. You see, Nasrudin is seen as our savior. He defended Arcanum against the madness of Aronnax, and through his courage and wisdom brought forth a new and enlightened age. He had been unsuccessful. All those races not elven. No, had he been unsuccessful, all those races not elven would now be slaves. And who began the church? Many of the church early records were destroyed, but those that survive indicate that the Panarii Church was started by elves, and that later it was joined by humans. We are an open congregation. We welcome all into our membership. After all, Nasrudin defended us all in his battle with Aronnax. We will be we will be no different than he. Okay. I do believe that's all. So... who else could I speak to concerning Panarii history? There are many scholars here in that first temple of the Panarii. The two most learned are Hadrian, the church archaeologist, and Gunther Wilhelm, the church historian. Both are well versed in the Panarii history and have detailed information concerning their specific disciplines. Where may I find them? Each of them has an office just through the doors behind me. When we're finished speaking, I will open the doors for you. Okay? So, let's go inside. Sir, greetings, and who are you, sir? The thin man in front of you is very properly dressed. Instead of robes, he wears a finely made suit. A pair of thin, gold spectacles lies across his nose. His features are delicate, but his eyes belie a strength of body and character, as well as harboring fierce intelligence. He regards you intensely. You might. I am Wilhelm, Gunther Wilhelm. A pleasure, sir. What is it exactly that you do here? I am the church historian. I have a variety of responsibilities here, from translation to document restorations, as well as authentication of any literary finds. If it is written, and it has to do with the Panarii, it is my job to know about it. Does that answer your question? Yes, and very well. Might I ask a few other questions? What would you like to know? Tell me of some of your work. What about my work are you interested in? What are you currently working on? Gunther points to some books on his desk. His movements are quick and precise. Currently, I'm doing a research on older translations of Archeon. I have found some interesting discrepancies I am looking into. Discrepancies? What do you mean? There are a few differences in some of the passages that I found in an earlier copy. I'll give you an example. The Archeon we read today refers to our order as the Panarii. The word Panarii in the older tongue means light servant or follower, but this older copy I'm studying, we are referred as Panarnes, which means defenders of the gate. Very odd. Interesting. Was there anything else? A few minor things. I'm still working on the translations. Perhaps something we can speak of later. Of course. I had some questions about Saint Manox. What would you like to know about Saint Manox? What else do you know of him, Gunther? Almost all of the records concerning the life of the great saint have been lost over the years. Very little is known about him, or what he did before he was taken. A slight smirk. Of course, there are the usual insubstantial accounts of the miracles. He seems to remember himself. Straightening. And of course, there is Alexander. What do you mean? What does Alexander have to do with him? You haven't heard? He has almost never spoken of it. The man has enough humility for us all. Alexander is a direct descendant of Manox. His family has held the position of the First Acolyte for the last 1500 years. No, I didn't know that. That's quite a legacy. Yes, it is. And there is no better man to bear it. Alexander is a saint in his own right. There are few men I respect, my friend. Alexander is a noble soul. Do you know anything of him? No, tell me of him. Alexander hasn't always been with us here in the temple. You see, the First Acolyte's role in any Panarii temple is a spiritual leader and a warlord. Symbolically, he is to assume these roles just as Nasrudin did so many years ago. Most acolytes go into this very lightly. They might entreat the local constabulary to train them in a basic combat technique. Not so Alexander. What did he do? Alexander left us for 10 years and studied with some of the most feared and respected masters in several of the combat disciplines. For his pilgrimage, he traveled to the Wendigrod wastes and lived there alone until he thought himself ready to assume his post. If you know nothing about the wastes, know this: there is no more terrible place in all of Arcanum. So he is a skilled warrior? There's not a more dangerous man in all of Caledon, and he is very well versed in 2 or 3 colleges of magic as well.
as are all of us who are Panarii elders. The temple hasn't been in safer hands since it was it was in those of the great saint himself. Okay, more questions about Manox? Let us speak of the eyewitnesses to his ascension. There are two eyewitnesses to the ascension of Manox. One was an elf named Randar, and the other, what was his name? Kanhua, I believe. Their accounts of the incident were almost exactly the same, and both were beautifully written. Oh, wait, Kanhua has written to Mingorad, the leader of the Dark Elves. It seems he's involved in the conspiracy to bring Aronnax back. It's weird that I cannot mention it to him. It seems kind of important. More questions about Manox? Do you believe in his ascension? Gunther smiles at you. There is no doubt in my mind that Manox was a very holy man. My belief is in an inconclusive set of circumstances does not invalidate this fact, regardless of how it might reflect on my own fate. But I heard that there are 8 eyewitnesses to that event. There are 2 eyewitnesses of the... Oh, he repeats himself. Okay, more questions? I actually want to ask other questions. Have you a moment? Tell me of your work. I ask this, I ask this. I have some questions about the remains of Nasrudin. What would you like to know about them? What do you know about them? Me? I know very little about them, save for the documents associated with their discovery, as well as a few research documents about the sarcophagus itself. Hadrian, the archaeologist, would have more information on the specifics. Do you think they are authentic? He lowers his voice. To tell you the truth, I don't really know. I've done a lot of research into the engravings on the sarcophagus. Everything seems to be in order. It just seems to me that it's all very convenient. I mean, who buried him? We have no records of that. There's no doubt that an elf of his statue would have been given an elaborate burial, but who did it? We don't know. Do the church records say who discovered them? Let me see. Here we are. The elf's name was Kanhua. Okay, so it seems it's some kind of conspiracy again, because Kanhua is associated with the Dark Elves. So perhaps it is all a mystification. Perhaps the Dark Elves actually founded the Panarii Religion itself to further their own ends, because it is suggested that the bones might be fake, the bones of Nasrudin, and it is also said that, yeah, the same person who witnessed the ascension of the saint was named Kanhua. Yes, it is at least the very same name. Let me see at the years. The discovery of the remains happened within a few years of the ascension of Saint Manox. I never realized that, but you are correct. That might very well be the same person. Don't you find it a little strange and perhaps a little convenient? You are very curious about this whole affair, my friend. What is your real interest in this? I see no point in secrecy. Worst case scenario, he's not going to believe me or attack me, but that has happened a number of times already, and, you know, it's a long tale. Tell him exactly what has happened. I see. Gunther studies you for a moment. You're telling me that you are the sole survivor of the IFS Zephyr blimp crash? Yes. He is silent for a moment, then a slight smile covers his face, and he takes your hand in his. I was wondering when you were going to tell me. I've been looking for you for a long time, you know. The rumors are abound, and I've heard you might come calling. I'm so very glad you decided to put your trust in me. Thank you, Gunther. I really need to see those remains. Listen, my friend, not everyone here is sympathetic to your cause. Hadrian the archaeologist is one who you need to speak with, but be very careful. He's an old and loyal friend, but belief in you will come slowly for him. He will be the best source of information regarding the remains and how we might see them, but tread lightly. Subterfuge might be necessary. Okay, thanks for your help. No, thank you, my friend. Return here when you have seen the remains and tell me what you find. I might be able to help you once I know what you are looking for. I will. Okay, so can I mention the writing on the sarcophagus? I've discovered something about the remains of Nasrudin. Welcome back. I take it you've spoken with Hadrian? I actually haven't. Have you found what is it that you were looking for? I found something, but I don't know what it means. Tell him. Interesting. It seems that the proverbial wool has been pulled over our eyes, but for what reason? I suppose it could be that the early church elders believed that the ascension story might strengthen people's beliefs, but at the cost of another man's life? I find that very difficult to believe, but I have found something that might be able to confirm that those remains are false. Wait, there was something else. Tell him of the blood message. He thinks for a moment. I have no idea what the broken ring represents, but the two words are written in Old Panarum, a dead language that was once used by the elder of the church. The first word means mirror or opposite, and the second word means truth. As for the meaning of the whole message, I am at a loss. I think we can assume that Manox is trying to tell us something. And what did you find, Gunther? Remember when I told you I was working on these old translations? I found another passage that is inconsistent with the Archeon we read today. Have you heard the passage that where it talks about the final resting place of Nasrudin? Yes, Alexander told me. Well, the today's Archeon reads, Nasrudin traveled to the southernmost tip of the land and there laid himself to rest. The copy I've been translating says almost the same thing, except for one slight difference. It reads, Nasrudin crossed the water and traveled to the southernmost tip of the land. What are you saying, Gunther? I'm saying that I don't think Nasrudin was buried here in Caladan. We have always just assumed that the scriptures were talking about the mainland, and of course, when the remains were quote-unquote found, no one ever bothered to look again. So where are the remains? The southernmost tip of any land in Arcanum is the Isle of Thanatos, to the south of here. I think that is where you need to go. I may ask you for a favor. If you have the time before you go, perhaps you could uncover the truth behind Saint Manox. There are men here who would be very interested in finding the responsible party. I may do that, but why do you think they did all of this? I don't know, my friend. Perhaps there is something about the actual remains of Nasrudin that they are afraid of. You should seek his final resting place, and there, I think, you will find your answers. I will, Gunther. Thank you, and good day. Good luck to you. Okay, so, again, seems to me that this whole thing is a conspiracy by the Dark Elves, because this Kanhua guy, or Ga, I don't know his or her gender, to be honest, but they specifically lied about they orchestrated the whole story about the ascension of the saint, and they were the ones who supposedly discovered the remains of Nasrudin, but they made sure that the cult was formed around the wrong ones. Like, those aren't the true bones of Nasrudin. So obviously the Dark Elves didn't want the true bones to be found for some reason, presumably because they can be used to thwart Aronnax's plans, which is exactly what I am trying to do, right? Let's take a look at this archaeology. This case houses a strange glass device. A plaque reads, strange glass device. Magically locked. This glass eye houses what looks to be a small ovular black stone. A plaque reads, the Eye of Krakatur. And this glass case houses what seems to be the bones of a finger. A plaque reads, Finger of Manox. Wait, shouldn't it be the finger of Nasrudin? Because they were trying to, officially, the bones underneath this very temple belong to Nasrudin, right? And it said that the skeleton was lacking a finger, so I am a bit confused as far as their official story goes. Let's talk with this archaeologist here. How do you do? Hello, who might you be? The man in front of you is a wizened old gnome with wildish grey hair and beard 3 days grown. He looks up at you, grinning toothlessly. Call me Hadrian, acolyte of the Panarii and a local expert on church archaeology. How may I help you? Greetings, I am Hargrim Stonehand. Might I speak with you for a moment? Certainly. Let's talk about your work. What would you like to know? Tell me about some of the objects you have here. Which ones would you like to know about? What is that? A skeleton's finger? Yes, that is the finger of Saint Manox. His finger? Why is that here? Legends tell of a time when Saint Manox was captured by the barbarians. They were plundering the surrounding countryside and were holding Manox for ransom. He told his people to refuse, so the barbarians threatened to cut off his finger if he didn't comply. Manox calmly picked up a knife, told them there would be no ransom, and cut it off himself. Sounds like a hard man. Yes, he was when he needed to be. Is there anything else you would like to know? Okay, more questions? What is the glass device? We haven't any idea of what that is. It is sure pretty though, eh? I guess. A few more questions about the objects? What is this black gem? This is the Eye of Krakatur. Really? It's a beautiful stone. No, I mean it's really the Eye of Krakatur. When the council was banishing him, he put up quite a struggle. Somehow the monster's eyes got put out, and someone found it as they were cleaning up. Dreadful creature Krakatur was. If you ask Alexander about who has been banished over the years, he will tell you the story. Perhaps I'll do that. More questions? Are they for sale? No, these are priceless church artifacts. I couldn't part with them for all the worldly riches. Okay. More about the objects. I asked about all of them. Let's talk about your work. What do you know of the remains of Nasrudin? The remains of Nasrudin? What would you like to know about them? Where are they? They are housed in the old catacombs beneath the temple. The First Acolyte Alexander can direct you there if you're having problems finding it. Have you seen them? His brow furrows. No, and I don't know, and I'd do anything to see those old bones of his. There are so many questions I could answer, if only I could have a look at them. When he died, how he died? I want to know if his skeletal structure was the same as the common elves, or if the prolonged use of powerful magic changed him somehow. So many questions, and I've never been able to see them. Why? You're the church archaeologist, surely... Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you, young man? He raises from his seat, gesticulating to and fro. I mean, when the elders need someone to go digging in the dank caverns of the Banginian depths, who do they call upon? Or if some poor fool comes across a tomb sealed with Gorgothian blood curse, ring the bell for old Hadrian. But why won't they let you to see the remains? I have no idea. He throws his hands in the air, upending a stack of papers, and looks up to the cup of dark ale. They speak of desecration and sacrilege, but... The man is dead. D-I-E-A-D. I respect and cherish Nasrudin and what he taught us more than anyone, but I hardly think he would be upset if I chipped a piece of bone from his earthly shell. Well, to be honest, generally speaking, I think you shouldn't go digging around people's graves, but if there is actual good to be gained, for example, solving a crime or preventing some catastrophe, then I do believe it trumps the sanctity of the dead. And in this case, I feel like it's very important to determine whether the bones are actually genuine, because I do have strong evidence to suggest that this whole setup is a scam, right, by the Dark Elves. So I think I might actually help him. I do believe he's kind of correct in this case, because even if Aronax or Saint Maddox, even if they were, holy people, I have no doubt they would have no objections about me, digging up their bones if it was for a good purpose, which in this case is determining the truth about the religion of the Panarii, and eventually maybe also stopping a conspiracy by the Dark Elves. So I see your point. I myself would love to take a look at them. Really? His face brightens. Are you a fellow archaeologist? I was supposed not to tell him. To be honest, I will, just to see what happens. If it blocks the quest, then so be it, I guess. I haven't lied that much this playthrough, so... No, but it's a long story. Tell him all that has happened. The living one? You? He pulls back, crossing his arms. I think it's in very poor taste. Do you have any idea what it is that you're proposing? Yes, I know it's hard to believe, but... You know, we were told to watch out for someone like you. The High Priest told us there would be an imposter, who would try to pass himself off as the living one. You're lucky I don't have you throwing chains right here. Wait, this is important. I need your help. He looks conflicted. Perhaps, look, please just leave. I couldn't help you see the remains in any case. If you've never seen them, they are certainly... If I've never seen them, they are certainly not going to let you. Okay, good day to you, but I've already seen them actually. Wait. Listen, I don't know what to think about it anymore. I'm an old man, and very set in my beliefs. It's much easier for me to think you're a charlatan than to face the alternative. I understand, and I'm sorry. If the remains are what you seek, he takes a deep breath. You might want to wander around the local sewers. You never know what you'll find down there. Perhaps you could bring whatever it is you come across. Perhaps you could bring it back for me to look at. I'll look around. If I'll find anything, I'll bring it back. You do that. A few more questions? Okay. Okay, I will go back to take the bones and actually bring them to him, because as I said, it is in a bit of a poor taste, right? But I do believe... where does this go? Okay, I guess this pretty solidly proves the Dark Elf conspiracy theory, because there literally are Dark Elf guards posted before those doors. As I said before, I do believe that if there is something, if there is some actual good to be achieved from digging up the bones of a long dead person, you know, saving someone's life or stopping a crime, then you have a moral right to do that, because they are already dead. They are not going to care. So I feel it's very important to actually determine the truth about the bones of Nasrudin. So I will bring them back, but first, let's inspect this. Oh, it's just a candle. Huh. Is there really nothing here? Surely there has to be like a secret passage or something. Like, there were Dark Elf guards here. So surely it has to be an important place somehow. Okay, that's interesting. Speak up, dwarf. I doubt they will let me through to here. What business do you have here? I'd like to see the Tomb of Nasrudin. I'm sorry, but you don't wear the pilgrim robes. Okay, so I need to go back through the sewers, right? Let's do it then. Conveniently, there's actually a sewer grate right here. Okay, let's take the skull of Nasrudin, as well as take another look at this. Unfortunately, I need to exit through the sewers as well, because they won't let me through the gate, even though I will enter from the other side, which is kind of hilarious when you really think about it. Okay. And actually, I also need to look through the temple to see where I can read the copy of the Archeon, because, you know, that's their most holy text, so it would be interesting to take a look at it. And the First Acolyte Alexander told me that there is a possibility of doing that, so I should look for it. Ah, there it is. This thick tome looks ancient, The pages are of worn parchment, with gold-leafed illustrations and illuminated letters. The cover says Archeon. And Nasrudin, great and powerful father, was born in elven forests of old, of this world, but not of it. Body of flesh, but spirit and wisdom of the gods. Eyes they saw beyond the years, dreams born of another age. And when he saw the first time is right, he gathered about him an elven council, a group of the wise and benevolent beings who saw the world as he did. For Nasrudin saw all beings as made equal, and gathered these about him who loved all the races as their own, dwarf, elf, human and gnome, halfling and orc as well, all beautiful to him, and he watched over them as if they were his own children. And the Elven Council, they protected Arcanum from the evils which infested it, and many were sent to the Void, banished from this place for their crimes. Mighty Gorgoth, whose hunger was only satisfied in the emptiness of the Void. Krakatur, whose heart was dark and fearful, but whose fury was only quenched in the blackness of the Void. The Bane of Kree, whose bloodlust was limitless and could only be entertained in the contained in the endlessness of the Void. And Kergan the Terrible, betrayer of the Elven Council, whose dark magics were an abomination and could only be forgiven in the blackness of the Void. And the land was peaceful until the coming of Aronnax. So came Aronnax, who wanted the world for himself and all of its races as his slaves, and he brought war against Nasrudin and the Council, and they faced Aronnax at the Black Spire, and there was a clashing of armies, and much life was lost. And there was a great battle between Aronnax and Nasrudin, a battle to end all battles. And the great Nasrudin banished Aronnax to the Void and saved the world from darkness and pain. But so great was the battle that Nasrudin himself was mortally wounded. And so great Nasrudin traveled to the southernmost tip of the land, and there laid himself to rest. But he watches over us still, awaiting the time when the evil shall return, and he shall come again, and he shall be strange to us, and some will not know his face, and his spirit shall be reborn on wings of fire, in hills shrouded in fog, and there he shall fight the final battle with the evil one. May your spirit always walk in the peace of Nasrudin. Okay. It wasn't particularly enlightening, to be honest. I was hoping it would be much more interesting. Okay, let's talk with him again. Hello. Could you spare a few minutes? Certainly. I've returned from the crypt. And you found it. Then you found it. What did you see there? I brought back the skull for you to look at. Give it to him. Hadrian's manners towards you is detached, but he can't help revealing an obvious excitement over the skull. I suppose I'll take a look. Let's see. What's this? What's wrong? The skull. You say this is the very skull from the sarcophagus in the burial chamber? Are you sure? Yes, I'm positive. Whatever is the matter. The skull, it's not even elven. It's a human skull. This is impossible. Hadrian slowly shakes his head, lost in thought. There were other strange things about what I saw. What? What did you see? I noticed that the skeleton was missing his right finger, so basically the bones are of Manox, presumably, and this is indeed Manox's finger, and not of Nasrudin, because Manox was a human, right? I noticed that the skeleton was missing his right finger. His right finger? Hadrian's face goes pale. You know what this means? Oh no, it couldn't be. What? What are you talking about? One of the objects I have here is the finger of Manox. There is a legend associated with it. It was never known if the finger was actually that of the great saint. It would seem that it might very well be. Are you saying the body in the sarcophagus is Manox? Yes, that's what I am saying. Like, it's kind of annoying that my character is so slow on the uptake. I don't know. Good God. Hadrian looks dully out the window. He is obviously in shock. Why? Why would they have buried him in the Tomb of Nasrudin? There's something else. Tell him of the message in blood. I don't know what that symbolizes, nor why it would be here. The word sounds like ancient Panarum, an ancient language used by the early church elders. It hasn't been used for centuries, but Gunther Wilhelm is an expert and would know what it means, or if it was drawn there by... Oh god, oh wait, so that was inside? I haven't made the connection, but I guess I opened the lid, so when I opened it and it was resting by the side of the sarcophagus, the facing that I faced, that faced towards me, was the inside of it. So, oh god, they buried him alive. Do you think the body in the sarcophagus is Manox himself? I don't know. Okay, he already said that. Hadrian, what are you going to do? I have no idea. This discovery, I am speechless. He steadies himself against the desk. 2000 years, and no one has even bothered to check. What fools have we been? He straightened himself. Listen, my friend, I recommend that you go and speak with Gunther about this. Find out what the message says. I can be of no further use. He gazes beyond you, lost in thought. I'll get to the bottom of it, I promise. He laughs bitterly. Perhaps this was a stone better left unturned, my friend. It's not every day that one is faced with the negation of his belief. He lowers his head. I am sorry. I will take my leave. Okay, but I would like to ask him again about the artifacts. Hadrian looks up at you with haunted eyes, but says nothing before lowering his head again, because I am interested in this, the strange device of glass, because the book of Durin's Truth says that I need the key of glass to get to the vault of iron, so I would like to purchase it if possible, but I cannot speak with him for now, so I guess maybe once I find the true bones of Nasrudin, I will be able to convince them. Hello again, have you discovered anything else about the remains of Nasrudin? Yeah, so he seems to be waiting for that very information. Not yet. A shame. Well, come and speak to me once you have. Okay. But let me once again go to this room, because it seems very important to me. There were literally Dark Elf guards standing guard, which, you know, is mightily suspicious, but then the room itself seems to be empty, which is even more suspicious to me. Doesn't look like I can interact with anything here. Okay, I wonder if the First Acolyte Alexander will have anything to say about what I have discovered. In the name of Nasrudin, I welcome you. How can I help you? Do you have a time for a few questions? Of course, honored one. I live to serve. I have been uncovering some strange things, Alexander. Really? What are you talking about? Gunther discovered something about the name of the Panarii. Alexander seems unperturbed. That is strange, my friend, but it seems a fairly trivial thing. There are small differences in almost every translation. Perhaps this was just an honest mistake. Was there anything else? Yes, there were more strange things. Gunther found... No, tell you what Gunther told you about Kanhua. This seems to bother Alexander a little. That's an interesting fact. Perhaps there is something amiss here. Was there anything else? Yes. Gunther found another discrepancy in the Archeon. It seems that we have all been deceived, my friend. It seems your path no longer lies with us, but if you have time, perhaps if you could look into the message that was written on the inside of the crypt, return to me if you find what it means. Otherwise, good luck to you. I hope that you find the final resting place of Nasrudin. Okay, but I discovered more strange things. And I've been inside Nasrudin's crypt. What did you find? I retrieved the skull. It's human and not elven. Alexander's face goes hard as stone. This is grave news. Obviously the remains are fake. If you find out what that means, return to me. Was there anything else? I made some observations concerning that crypt and the remains. Alexander's fist clenches as you tell him of Manox. You can see that he's barely controlling his rage. I see. If you find out what all of this means, return to me. If indeed my family, I mean the blood of Manox, was spilled for some darker plot, you can be assured there will be retribution. I swear it by my life. Was there anything else? Wait. If indeed my fam... So, did his family do it to him? Like, did they basically manufacture his whole saintness? And also, that makes totally no sense at all, because, like, I guess they needed to kill him to pretend that he was ascended, because after all, if he really was ascended, there would be no body left, right? So they killed him and passed his bones as Nasrudin's bones, because there couldn't be a body left if they wanted to pretend that he was taken wholesale, into another plane of existence by Nasrudin. But I wonder, what does this mean, if indeed my family... So did they do it to him? Did they plan it from the beginning that they wanted one of their own family to sort of become a saint? And also in conjunction with that to also mysteriously procure the bones of Nasrudin? But I guess it was Kanhua that quote unquote found them. I retrieved the skull. It's human and not elven. I said that already. Okay, I guess he's less shaken than I would have initially thought. I must go. Good day to you. Okay, so basically, I need to find passage to the island of Thanatos to find the bones. I would imagine, that being an island, it probably requires... a ship, right? Wait, the broken ring symbol might symbolize the Ring of Brodgar? So maybe Saint Manox, because obviously it seems from the fact that it was written inside the sarcophagus, it seems he had written it as he was dying, as he was entombed alive. It might mean the Ring of Brodgar, and it might be a warning about what the Dark Elves were planning, because it seems they must have imprisoned him there, It was Kanhua, the ally of the Dark Elves, who discovered, quote-unquote, the bones of Nasrudin first, here in Caladon. So maybe Saint Manox knew about their plan to break the Ring of Brodgar and bring Aronnax back. But that is for another time, because for now, this episode has been long enough, so I'm going to save here and end it now. That's all for this one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!